Alrighty, we are pleased to have on today from Saskatoon. He's a Canadian sportscaster serving as the color commentator for Sportsnet 960. The Fan also covers the Calgary Flames. A longtime broadcaster covering junior hockey, has been to numerous Memorial Cups. So that's quite the intro. And after all that, we are pleased to have on Peter Loubardias. Thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure, guys. When that name pops up in my inbox, I'm good. I am all good. Good Saskatchewanites. Great last name, great background, and grew up watching this fairly tough gentleman by the name of Joey, who, put on a few quality performances that even further hooked me on my love affair with junior hockey since I was a really little guy. So my pleasure.
Well, maybe speaking for myself, but I definitely miss those genes of Joey. On the tough side of things, but I'm not sure about my brother. But yes, Joe was definitely a tough customer for sure. Pete, first off, we want to, what's up with you? What's new? What's going on? Obviously, hockey's right around the corner here. Walk us through where you're at and what's going on.
Well, hockey for me has started in a big way between calling 2 rookie games and 7 preseason games. It feels like we're in the middle of the season already, to be frank, and with travel, which was awesome because, last year with COVID, we didn't have an opportunity to travel. We did all the road games for the Flames from our radio studio boardroom downtown. And that, needless to say, is not the ideal way to call a hockey game in any way, shape, or form. So at this point, knock on wood and knock on, that C word that nobody likes, that it doesn't take a massive turn. And it's good. It's good. It's great to be back. And it's great to be back so far where things are a lot more like they used to be.
It's funny you say that because, we had our first two regular season games, this past week. And, you're all right, though. I mean, that C word that no one wants to hear, we want to kind of, get the full season done and get kind of whatever back to normal is. So, it looks like the NHL and everyone else below them is following, the right protocols and hopefully that we can get back to whatever normal it is. So seems to be going good so far, yes, which is nice.
It is. And you guys had a nice shootout win the other night, too, I saw.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we won 4-3 in a shootout. So it was good. We're, 3 of possible points.
You beat the Capitals?
Correct. Yeah.
That was Drew's first win as his professional head coach.
So. Yes, I saw the new assignment. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, Peter, I want to ask first. Saskatoon born and raised, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, growing up in Saskatoon, what sorts of hobbies were you up to as a youngster? What were you doing? Were you playing hockey, baseball? Walk us through what
Golf.
You were doing. Yeah.
I was, Troy, and I know your love affair and involvement with golf. The sad part for me about golf today, as a 56-year-old, I was better at 7. And I mean 7 years old. I've loved sports since before I could even remember. I attended my first Blade game at 3 years of age. That's when my mom and dad started taking me to the rink, and I was a pretty good little hockey player until I got to be 14 or 15. I played baseball. I played AAA baseball all the way up until I left Saskatoon to start my career in Estevan, Saskatchewan in 1984 when I was 18. There would be no way, guys, to tell you how many sporting events I attended as a kid, especially between the ages of 14 to 18. I was probably in the 200 a year neighborhood between playing, watching. I also worked for a number of years on top of that with the Saskatoon Harmony Center ladies senior A softball team that won a couple of national championships. So to suggest that sports has been my life would be underselling it.
Yeah, no
underselling it. Yes.
So moving into the future, you said Saskatoon. That's where you
Yeah.
grew up. You went to a well-known place that I actually checked out when I was, 9 19 years old. You went to Western Academy Broadcasting College.
I did.
I kind of still wish to this day I would have stuck it out, but I didn't. Anyways, you did.
Now we
can
started
call-
the podcast now.
You
So-
can call me after and I'll give you maybe 10 or 15 reasons why, especially today, maybe that wasn't the world's best idea. But
Okay,
yes.
fair enough. Thank you.
No, not true. I just, yes.
So yeah, you went to WABC.
I
I mean,
did.
you made quite a name for yourself ever since. Where did the passion for sports journalism, broadcasting come from? And like, how did it all come about?
I think Troy started again just really early. Just my love affair for sports, and I knew from a really young age a couple of things, that I wanted to have a life and try to find a way to be paid for my love and my passion. I never met a conversation, especially about sports, I didn't like. My mom always said your big mouth would get you into trouble. She was not completely wrong on that account. But I knew from about the time I was 6 or 7, in all sincerity, that, I was going to head into the broadcasting field, hopefully, and that would turn out. It was my single and sole focus, certainly by the time I got to high school. In fact, my old buddy, another great Saskatoon guy, Ray Morrison, and I made our television debut at 14 years of age on Telecable 10 in Saskatoon, calling about 4 Saskatoon and area high school football games. So
Wow.
yeah, the love of I was really lucky. There was really never much doubt about where I wanted to try and go with it. I had no idea whether it was going to work or not, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
So finishing up at WABC, now you're moving on to the real world. You got to pay the bills. Who gave you your first start? And I mean, how did it go?
Well, Ray Morrison graduated from Western Academy the semester before I did. I had to work for a semester in order to be able to pay to go to school. So he started early in 1984 after his semester at CJSL in Estevan. And of all things, guys, the news director position came up because Ray was doing sports, and I had about this much interest in doing news, but it was a way to get my foot in the door. And so I took it. My boss, John Empey in Estevan, told me probably about 3 months after Ray left to go to CKOM in Saskatoon that it was a good thing, because I might not have kept my news job much longer. But Ray left, and in the summer of 1985, I became the sports guy at CJSL and the voice of the Bruins, and on and on and on. So that's how it started. And I can say this, I wouldn't pass on those 4 years for anything. It set the foundation for everything I was able to do. I was 18. I was terrified leaving home, giving this a try. You said, Troy, like paying your own bills, making sure your laundry's clean, and a lot of those things. And when you grew up, when I did, I generally had people to take care of a lot of those things. So it was all brand new. Now my rent was $150 a month, and my paycheck wasn't much more than that. But those, like I said, those 4 years, and I did everything. We broadcast the Estevan Men's Fastball League. I did Big Six Hockey League games. Obviously, was the voice of the Bruins. I played both baseball and softball. I coached hockey and softball. It was, didn't really have a responsibility or care in the world. And it was awesome.
So
it was great.
After Estevan, I'm just curious because Drew's quite a bit younger than myself. So I remember you, Pete, calling Pat's games. Like that's how I recognize you and voice and whatnot. But between there and Regina, did you have any other stops?
No, I didn't. No,
so you went directly from Estevan to the Pats?
I did. I was lucky enough in my last year in Estevan to call the Notre Dame Hounds run to the Centennial Cup in 1988.
Right.
Notre Dame, needless to say, as you guys are familiar, do not have their own radio station in Wilcox. So my boss came to me and at the end of the Bruins season, and then at the end, Notre Dame beat Yorkton that year to win the SJHL title, and said, "Hey, Peter, would you have any interest in broadcasting Notre Dame's road to the Centennial Cup?" Of which I did about 700 fist pumps and ran around the building 26 times and had an incredible spring. And in the fall of 88, my mentor and friend and somebody I've worked with and have known since I was 15, Roger Millions, was at CKCK Radio in Regina, and said, "I'm putting together a sports department. I'd like you to be a part of it." So moved there. The next season, we got the rights at CKCK to do Pat's games, and started that part of the adventure, and was in Regina for 5 years before I moved to Saskatoon and went from radio into TV. And with this ugly mug, I'm not really sure how that happened, but it happened.
So I'm sorry.
I got to ask one here.
Okay.
I don't know where you're going with this, but I wanted to ask because I think I saw last year was it the playoffs, your son calling a game from the living room. Is that correct?
Well, my son, who's on the spectrum, he's autistic, is an incredible lover of NASCAR.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So he might like NASCAR as much as I like hockey.
That's awesome.
Well, tell him to listen to last week's podcast, because we had the female driver,
Amber Balkan.
Yeah.
NASCAR. She was on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will do that. So for whatever reason, from the time he was really young, whenever sports would come on, not that he had great interest in it, but if we'd be sitting there together, he'd go, "Hey, Dad, call the game." So I'd usually call whatever it was on TV. And I guess in some way, shape, or form, I guess there's proof that he's my kid, because he loves it. And, his first kind of video went pretty viral.
Absolutely. It was awesome.
When he called the end of the 2019 final race, where his favorite driver, Kyle Busch, ended up winning the championship. So, he loves it. And I think he's got a bit of a gift for it. The only issue is when you grow up in Canada, not a lot of broadcasting spots for NASCAR.
True. That is true.
Yeah.
So I actually did one question I wanted to ask Peter was, and I'm sorry, I'm going back to the Pats thing.
No, don't.
But in your time calling Pats games, who is the best player that you got to watch every day and call?
Oh, I love that question, but it's not
because
an easy
to me,
one.
I still know my favorite all time, and I'm 40, so I just
you know what? It's funny. It's an awesome question. In my time as the voice of the Pats, it would be hard to think that Mike Sillinger probably wasn't the best player that I had a chance and called his last couple of seasons. I would probably put him first, but Jason Smith, who went on to have an excellent career primarily in Edmonton, was just a whale of a guy. Louis Dumont, Jeff Shantz, go on down the line. It's probably easier, Troy, for me to answer the question about who is probably the best junior you ever watched growing up.
Yeah.
And, Sakic and Fleury obviously come to mind. But for me, Dale Durkach, the Rat, if you go back and look at his numbers in Regina, and I could the craziest story of my life is this. I could not have despised the Regina Pats as a kid more. Like, it would have been impossible. Because I love the Blades beyond belief. And I think I missed 4 home games in about a 5-year span, in the 80s, in the late 70s and early 80s. So, to become the voice of the Pats in my first Western League gig was ironic. But Derkach, who I could not stand as a player, and I told him, and we've laughed about it because he's such an amazing guy.
Oh yeah, great person.
He's just dynamite, but he might be the best junior in a sense that I ever watched.
So
I mean,
wow.
those numbers were
Yeah,
staggering.
So
staggering.
Peter answered Derkach. Now I'm just do this real quick. Drew, in your short time on Earth, best Pat you've watched.
Best Pat?
Yeah, I know mine. So
well, I mean, I think Jordan Eberle's got to be up there.
Ebbs.
I mean, Ebbs or
don't take mine.
Like Sam Steele's. Yeah, I don't know. Probably Jordan Eberle. I mean, maybe before that, Matt Hubbard.
And I'm a Matt Hubbard guy. You just took my guy. I still to this day, that kid had so much talent. So much talent. He's so much fun to watch.
Great skater, old number 21.
Yeah.
He was from Winnipeg, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was.
Actually, you know who was good one though? Pete was Wasey Rabbit. I mean, we're talking junior guys now, but he was a hell of a junior player. He's still a good player.
He's a great junior, and what a great job he does in this day and age to grow the Indigenous community, and
Absolutely.
He's doing unbelievable work away from it. And I watched Wasey a lot. My favorite Wasey memory goes back to the Memorial Cup in 2007. The Giants opened the tournament against the OHL champion Plymouth Whalers on opening Friday night. And in a great game, James Neal was the big star of the Plymouth Whalers that particular year, and others. Michael Neuver was their goalie, and going down the line. But Wasey Rabbit scored the overtime winner in that game and helped to propel the Giants to the 2007 Memorial Cup title.
Yeah, and that was a good final between the Tigers and the Giants, correct? Yeah, that was the Chris Russells and Helm.
Yeah, I did 8 and wish I could have done 80. But that's another story. But yeah, the show those two teams put on in the 7-game Western Hockey League final was one of the great finals that I've ever, not necessarily been a part of, but that I watched. And, the double overtime winner by Bosch in the fog in the Medicine Hat Arena in Game 7, and then 2 classic matchups at the Memorial Cup because the Tigers won the round robin game 1-0 to advance directly to the final. And then, the shift by Lucic and 3-1 win in front of an amazing packed house at the Pacific Coliseum. Yeah, that might have been the best Memorial Cup final of the 8 that I got a chance to call.
I know we're kind of bouncing all over the place here, Drew. Sorry, but lots of questions keep flowing inside my mind. So
keep them in your head. Does that get mine going here?
No, I know. So Peter, I mean, what's better for you in your profession? Is it calling the NHL games or the junior hockey? What do you enjoy more? And I know you're getting paid to do the NHL games. I understand that. But in your own mind, what would you get more out of?
You know what? The 8 years that I was the voice of the CHL at Sportsnet is arguably the greatest times I've ever had. Listen, I don't take for granted. I'm so lucky after I lost my gig at Sportsnet in 2011 to bounce back and now do color on the radio. But, I love calling games play-by-play wise. Because of my history growing up with the Western Hockey League, loving it so much for me, and I say this to everybody, the Western Hockey League is more like family than it is anything else. It was such a huge part of my upbringing and getting me through, and that's another podcast for another time. But guys, I share this a lot. I try not to get emotional every time I do, but I watched every single Memorial Cup on television starting in 1973. Never missed one. And that event was so big. And so my first one was in 2004 in Kelowna.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to the rink. We did the whole tournament, and the first game was off the hop. But I went to the rink for a 4:00 start in Kelowna, and I got to the rink at 12:30. There were no lights. There was nobody in the rink. And I remember looking down at the ice and nobody in the building and seeing, the logos and Memorial Cup 2004. And I thought, oh my God, you have watched this final every single year since you were 7 years old. And today you get to call this game to the country. So
yeah, pretty cool.
That I got goosebumps right now from head to toe. So yeah, I love all levels of hockey. I've been so fortunate. I did 8 games at the Winter Olympics in 2010, which was another incredible highlight for me. But yeah, those 8 Memorial Cups I did, I cherish beyond belief. So I hope that kind of answers that question the best that
very well it does.
So Pete, I want to talk about, obviously you covered a lot of junior hockey, but
yes.
A lot of people don't know, maybe they do, maybe they don't, that you and I have something in common. I'm a scout, I'm a hockey coach, director of player personnel. Mm-hmm. You were a scout, and in fact, for the Red Dead Rebels. How did that come about? Was that just because, obviously you're in the game, you're on the team, you know the game? Walk us through how you got a scouting day with
well, I owe a lot to Brent Sutter, because that opportunity, Drew, came after I was let go at Sportsnet Television in the summer of 2011. Okay. And as much as I loved calling the games, my favorite part really in many ways about sports is the evaluation side and watching young players grow. And I've always had great fascination. I watch a ton of games. I love it. I love it at those levels where you try to see or guess or get a read on guys coming up through the ranks. So, to this day, I still have hopes down the road that I'll get another opportunity to do that. I think I'm far more ready today to take that on. I haven't shared this with anyone. I'm so grateful to Brent that for 1 year I got an opportunity to try it and do it. It was a great indoctrination to it. But to be frank, I was still so hurt by what had happened. Like I was just, like it's the most devastating thing that ever happened. And I wasn't ready to truly, and I documented it because I had a buddy challenge me, guy that does the morning show here at the Fan, Dean Malberg, said, I want you to do me a favor, count how many games you go to this season as a scout. And it was 310. So I wasn't going to get cheated in the amount of games that I went to, but let's just say with, 10 more years of experience and being around the NHL and getting to know more people. And, I've learned so much. I've been going to hockey school my whole life.
Yeah. No,
that's what I say to people. And I've learned everything by asking questions and being around some of the best people and watching. So yeah, I hope for me, there's some kind of chapter potentially coming next in terms of scouting, regardless of maybe even the level, because I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it.
So kind of want to roll into a 2-part question, and you're kind of leaning towards one of the ones I was going to ask you. So the first one was, we know you've covered hockey, lots and lots of hockey. A, what is the most exciting game or event that you have witnessed? Now, it might be the Memorial Cup you were talking about, like calling that game.
Yeah.
And B, what is Peter Loubardias' holy grail of broadcasting? Like, what is your end game? Like, what would just make you go, okay, I'm good, I can retire?
Well, he came on today. He's excited. This is it.
You know what, guys? I can honestly say this to you. There's only one thing left, and I don't think I'll ever get an opportunity to do it. And that's, I did a World Junior exhibition game from Sweden in 2003, leading up to the 2004 tournament in Helsinki. I called a Canada-Russia Junior Super Series in 2007, which was another just incredible experience. Because my holy grail in sports is simple. If you wear the maple leaf in almost any team sport, like that moves the needle for me like nothing.
Wow.
Nothing moves it. In fact, I'm fired up right now because we're about to play Mexico in a massive World Cup soccer qualifying game tonight. So after I'm done with you guys, that is in my travels tonight. So, that's the holy grail. That game that I talked about, Troy, would have been as special a single event that I've ever done, just because it was such a true dream come true.
Right.
Having an opportunity to, call that Super Series and call that exhibition game. And my first game at the Olympics was in Vancouver, was borderline mind-blowing. Now, I didn't get a chance to do any Canadian games because guys by the name of Cuthbert and Miller looked after that, and a little ahead of me on the depth chart. But I was the number 3 guy on that crew. And, my first game was Jaromir Jagr and the Czechs against the Slovaks. So,
wow.
The only thing is I never got a chance to do a World Junior tournament game for real.
Well,
but outside of that, I can honestly say I can close this computer, walk away tomorrow, and outside of that, like when I was in Estevan, I wanted to do one Western League game or one game on the radio, period, to call one hockey game. 37 years later, it's
you did a few.
Just a tad better than I would have ever.
Well, I think Drew, myself, and our listeners will have a hashtag going out about something about you getting to do the World Juniors, sir. We'll try and help you out as much as we can.
I don't think TSN's that interested at this point, but if they phone, I'll listen.
All right, Pete, we want to talk quickly here. We want to test your knowledge on just the Canadian teams, the NHL teams. And, where do you see who's the best, who's the worst? What do you like? What dislikes? Let's start off with the Leafs, and then we'll break down the Flames, Habs, Jets, Canucks, Ottawa, and Oilers. So let's go ahead with the Leafs.
Well, in Toronto, I don't think there's been a question about talent. I also don't think there's been a question about their inability to get over when it matters the most.
Yeah.
And for this group, it's probably overdue at this point.
Yeah.
And yet here they are now back in the Atlantic Division, which is just loaded to the point where I don't think it's even a cinch that they finish in the top 3.
Right.
Like not even close to being a cinch.
Yeah. It's
so, yeah. Incredibly talented. They've tried the last 2 years, to add some more grit, some more different types of depth. But they're still a very, very, very good team. And, we'll see if I think last year's disappointment was probably the worst. That path to most of us, including myself, looked like they were destined for the Final Four. So to lose, blow a 3-1 lead, where had they been a little more assertive, they had Montreal completely on the ropes, and they couldn't put them away in Game 5. And we know the rest of that story for Montreal. So, I still think the Leafs, there's some issues there, but we'll see. And at a certain point in time, it's going to be up to Matthews and Marner
to be the guys
to drive it. And they're great players. But again, and I am this guy probably to a fault. I understand the importance of what you do in the regular season, but you want to win me over, get it done in the playoffs.
Yeah, because if you don't win the last game of the season, nobody cares.
Well, win a series, Toronto. You haven't done that since I was still covering the Leafs in the early 2000s.
Well, yeah, I think it's now or never for that team. But I mean,
you know my feelings, Drew, so I'm not going to get into it. And I'm not a Leafs fan, so.
All right, well, let's spin it to the Flames. I know you cover that team quite closely, Peter. So walk us through what are you thinking there?
Well, major change last year when Daryl Sutter returned. You know, thought there might be some more changes of significance in the offseason. It's been a core group that's had lots of up and downs, and again, haven't been able to take care of more business when it's mattered the most. You know, they've added some veteran guys in the bottom of their lineup who are, you know, I don't know if you get hung up a little bit, I think people do, on what a Daryl Sutter player is or what they aren't.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to be a team that defends incredibly well, gives up very little. I think they're going to be, you know, with Zadorov and Goodbranson and others, I think they're going to be harder to play against this year. They're probably going to be somewhat challenged to score. But, you know, as Daryl says, and it's well documented, you know, the NHL in many ways is a 3-2 league. You take a look, not a lot of teams get to 4 on a regular basis. In fact, I think last season there was only 2 teams in the NHL that averaged 4 goals a game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can keep your opponent to 2 and get to 3,
you're gonna
have a chance.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to the Habs. Obviously, we saw their success last year. Where do you see them in their divisions and whatnot?
Well, I mean,
Carey Price too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, you have to start there, and I just hope, you know.
Yeah.
Been watching Carey since his junior days with the Tri-City Americans, and still for me today, if I have one game to play and I need one goalie,
he's the guy.
For me personally, it's him. Now Vasilevsky might have moved a little closer for me to that ledger. So I hope he can get healthy, be well again. Don't know what he's going through, but
yeah,
it's obviously not good. And
don't the Habs have Jake Allen as their backup though?
They do,
so,
and
you know that's a saving grace for them.
He's solid.
He is solid, and they also have a young man by the name of Caden Primo, who is Keith Primo's son, who played for the U.S. at the World Junior a couple of years ago, and he's good. I watched him a few times, well, probably 6 or 7 times between watching him in Laval with the Rocket and watching him against the Flames a couple of nights. So, but not Carey Price. The big loss for me in Montreal, and I don't think it can be understated, is Shea Weber.
Yeah.
I think Shea Weber has been one of the elite superstar defenders for well over a decade. Look at his track record.
Yeah. And he's a winner.
And go back and watch the 2016 World Cup. Go watch the most recent Stanley Cup run. Go back and watch 2014 at the Olympics when he and Marc-Edouard Vlasic were impossible to score against.
Yeah.
You know, 2010, you know, the tournament he really started to make a name for himself, 2005, with Dion Phaneuf as the shutdown pairing at the World Junior in Grand Forks. I mean, there is a group of Canadian players that we have been so blessed to watch. That kind of core group, a lot of it came from that 2005 team: Bergeron, Crosby, Perry, Getzlaf, Carter, Weber, go on down the line. You know, think about what they have done professionally and internationally. And you know, Shea is just an awesome person. You know, got to know him pretty well in those days, covering a World Junior and 2 Memorial Cups that he played in. So that leadership, you know, the effect he has on others, that guy's going to be tough. Now, do I like a lot of their pieces? I do.
Yeah.
And Nick Suzuki might not be on Canada's Olympic team this time, but if they're going in 2026,
he'll be there.
As my friend Cam Moon always gets a kick of when I do this, You can book mom and dad's tickets for Italy right now. Right now.
Yeah.
So
how much?
They've got some good pieces.
How much do you think it hurts that they lost? And I'm going to screw his name up. Kotkaniemi.
You know what? I think, Troy, it would have been a bigger loss if they didn't obtain Christian Dvorak from Arizona. Yeah. He, people don't know a lot about him. He had an incredible junior career in London. His line mates were Tkachuk and Marner, maybe one of the best junior lines I've seen maybe ever. He's a really good two-way centerman, smart, reliable. And when you lose, don't forget they lose Deneau too, who left for LA in free agency. So the Kotkaniemi loss would be way bigger had it not been for them taking, the draft picks that they got when Kotkaniemi went to Carolina and swung that. And I think another guy up the middle there that I'm curious on is Jake Evans. Before he got hurt in the Winnipeg series, when I watched him all year, and remember last year, I watched, that's all we watched was the Canadian teams, and they played the Flames 9 times. So, I don't think that loss is as big, but it's the Deneau loss is bigger, way bigger for me than the Kotkaniemi loss at this point.
So here's a quick one. Ottawa. This shouldn't take too long.
I like Ottawa.
Really?
I like Ottawa a lot. I don't think they're ready, but ask the Calgary Flames how much they enjoyed playing Ottawa last season. They cost the Flames a playoff spot. And they, in the last 3 months of the year, they caused a lot of havoc. DJ Smith, excellent coach. They've got great young pieces. I don't think the Brady Tkachuk situation is the way that they wanted to kick things off, because as we speak on this podcast, he's still unsigned.
Yeah.
He's a massive piece, and they'd like to hope a massive piece for a long time. But I like what Pierre Dorion and that group is doing. And as long as, Matt Murray needs to have probably a better year from start to finish, but they're going to be a tough out. And I think they still probably need another year before they're like legit. And the other problem that Ottawa has, they're in that Atlantic division too. So good luck to you.
Yeah, they're in tough. Okay, 3 more. Let's go to the Jets. I'm not a fan of a team, but I like their core. They brought some good pieces in the back end. Where do you see? I think they're the top team out of the North. Out of the North, all the Canadian teams. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you, Drew. I really am. I think in adding Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt to the back end with, players like Heinola on their way up, they've really taken care of the one element of their team that's been in flux.
Yeah.
Salary cap crunch. They had to move on from guys, the Bufflin situation. They're a really good team. They're big, they're heavy, they can play it any way you want. Vezina caliber goalie and Hellebuck when he's right. But those 2 additions on defense, the defense has finally started to catch up to the forward group. Yeah. And if you haven't drafted anybody yet, and I'm not a fantasy guy, but if I was, I would say to you and your viewers and listeners, take Nikolai Ehlers.
Yep. I would agree.
I think he might get 40 this year.
I see it. Yeah.
Goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you.
Boy, if last night is any indication and what I've seen from him over the years, yikes.
All right.
The Dynamite Dane is pretty good.
Yeah, he's a hell of a player. 2 more left here. The Canucks and then Troy's Edmonton Oilers. 2 left here. So we'll go to the Canucks first, Pete. I don't have a whole lot on them, but that's why you're on the show today.
Okay. I think they're much improved. I'm a massive Travis Green fan.
Yeah, I like him.
I thought everything that could have gone against them last year did. incredible expectations coming off that wonderful run in the bubble in the previous season. They've taken care of business signing Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. They've made some other good additions. So I think, potentially it might be Calgary and Vancouver battling, for a playoff spot. And I think Vancouver is going to be much improved. I really, really do.
All right. I'll let Troy ask this one.
My Oilers. How are we doing? I'll tell you what I think.
Another Oilers guy. You go first.
We need a goaltender.
Okay.
We beefed up our back end, so I'm happy about that.
Yep.
We have all the offense in the world. Really, we do.
You do.
We need a goaltender, and that's.
You didn't get very many, I noticed, in the playoffs last year when you could have used one or two.
That was last year, Peter. That was last
okay.
Year.
All right.
This is
all right.
this year.
I have to give you a little poke.
Oh, I know. What are your thoughts? I'm just curious. As a lot of people in Regina, there's lots of Oiler fans here.
Listen,
it's 50. It's probably 40-20 between Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, right? So.
Edmonton. Listen,
Toronto.
I've lived in a lot of places, including Edmonton for 3 years. Did a bunch of Oiler games in the mid 2000s too. I think they're much better. I really do. I think the Fogel ad is underrated. I really do. I think he's going to give them good physicality and good depth. Going to really add to that. I would say this to you, Troy. I understand the goaltending situation, and I'm not on a different page there. I think the real key in Edmonton is going to be one defensive pairing. Duncan Keith and Cody Ceci. If they stay together, we'll see if Bouchard can grow his defensive game enough to get top 4 type of minutes. Offensively off the charts, defense still trying to find his way as a young blue liner. But that old Wolverine, Duncan Keith at 38, if that pairing can give you a solid 20 minutes a game, because this as a fan, Adam Larson, another one of those underrated defenders. That's a loss for them for sure. Bear is a loss, different kind of player. So, I feel bad for them. No Clefbaum again.
I think he's done.
But if that middle pairing can really solidify the top 4, they're going to be miserable to deal with.
Yeah, it should be a fun season. I think it's nice looking at the Canadian teams and not going, okay, well, they're last, they're second last. You know what I mean? There's a lot of parity between all Canadian teams.
Yeah. And after watching them the other night, just in case you guys want an update, Connor McDavid hasn't gotten any slower over the summer. Just news just in.
You got faster?
Maybe. I'm not sure that's possible, but.
All right, Pete. I have 3 questions, all jammed into one.
Okay.
I'm not going to rush you off the show here, but I do.
Well, you can. I know. I take up a lot of time.
This is perfect. I have to attend a hockey meeting with my club in like 20 minutes here. Anyhow, we're going to have you on again, but here's my 3 questions. Strike. Okay. Quick thoughts on Bedard. Connor Bedard. He's like, shit.
Magic hands. What a performance he put on in Texas as a double underage. Goal he scored in the final after missing the penalty shot. Maybe one of the great goals I've seen for quite some time. Gets to the middle, backhand shelf, 50 feet. Brought me off my couch down here, yelling and screaming. And I think he's going to be on our team in Edmonton at the World Junior. I think so. He's a special guy.
He's worth the price of admission, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
In junior hockey, beyond belief. And I know you got to run, but here's my big pet peeve. Go watch Connor Bedard every chance you can in person when you can pay $25 or whatever they're charging these days, instead of $350 in about 2 years.
Plus the $150 gas money from Regina, because we don't have a local team, right? Plus hotel, plus, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I know where you're going, my friend.
Exactly. That's
okay.
Nail in the head.
Okay.
This one here is, how much do you golf? Are you good at it? Do you like it? Walk us through it quickly.
I used to love it. Now I stink.
That was
as I didn't even take a club out of the bag this year until the Flames annual tournament.
Yeah.
Tough summer at home, lost my father-in-law. I don't like the game very much anymore. And the reason I don't like it very much anymore is because, as I joked with you guys before we started, I was better at 7 years of age at Wildwood Golf Course in Saskatoon than I am now. It's like I was never good. But at one point in the mid 90s, I probably played 3-4 times a week in Saskatoon. You know, I was never better than probably an 85 guy, but you know, I didn't embarrass myself.
Yeah.
Now I embarrass myself. I'll get, at some point, I'm going to take some lessons, give it one more run. And if it doesn't work, it's over.
Well, you come to Regina, Pete, and Drew will give you some free lessons. He's quite the stick. So
okay.
I've got one question before you ask your last one. This is going to be a fun one.
Okay.
Celebrity death match. One winner only. Who's coming out of the ring? Peter Loubardias, Rod Peterson, or Bob Stauffer?
Oh, Bob Stauffer. Depends what kind of death match it is.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah. Okay, here's my last one for you, Pete. And like I said, I want to do this again. I know, Troy, we've had a lot of fun today, and we want to do it again with you if you'll come back on.
No problem. Yeah, for sure.
You know, we always ask this question, and, you know, just some advice for a young listener today listening, you know, whether they want to be a pro hockey player, because you've seen a lot of it, you know, be a doctor, be a pro broadcaster, you know, whatever in life, be successful. Just some advice for a young listener today.
For a young listener today, it's pretty simple for me. And that is move towards your passion. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Take advantage of any mentorship situation that comes on your way. Understand that your passion and your work will take you a long way. And that while you may have a lot of ability in the social media era and look things up on your phone era, I still believe there is nothing like being there, experiencing it, learning from. One thing for me has never changed. I always want to learn from people who are better and know more than I do. That's the message.
It's a great answer.
Yeah. Well said. Well, Peter, like I said earlier, you know, we appreciate you coming on today. You know, best of luck to you and the Flames this season. I know it hurts Troy for me to say that, but
okay, he's really not that worried down there, I can tell.
Well, we want to do this again down the road. Troy, anything before we let Peter go here?
Just want to say thank you again, my friend. I've been trying to get you on the show for quite some time, and I'm really glad you took, you know, some time out of your day to join us.
My pleasure. And go Storm, go.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, guys, be well.
Take care.